indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Tom Collins.
Here.
Clem Oslewski. Mike Richmond. Jim Galantino. Margaret Gubernalti. Mike Cristaldi. Craig Palmisano. David Carter. Despina Hess. Remy Pelosi. Joe DiGirolamo. Rich Patterson.
Here. This meeting is being held in accordance with due public notice thereof and pursuant to the New Jersey State Sunshine Law. Notice of this meeting was advertised in the press, and a copy of same has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building. All applicants are hereby advised that should you receive board approval tonight, you must come forward and sign a form which informs you regarding the timing of receiving building permits and mercantile licenses. At the end of your case tonight, please see the board administrator to sign the two information sheets. Can I hear a motion to approve the minutes of December 17th, 2015?
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
These are your oaths.
Does he get sworn in? Him? Don't we vote on him first? I'd like to hear a nomination for solicitor for 2016.
I'll make a motion, we nominate Stan Bergman. I'll second.
Any other nominations? Nominations closed. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? None. Welcome, Stan.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
I'd like to hear a motion to nominate or a nomination for board secretary and administrator for 2016.
Maybe he wants the job.
I nominate Johanna Casey for...
Do I hear a second? All in favor? Opposed? None. Motion passes.
Congratulations.
We need to swear in reappointed members, which are, who are we swearing
We
in?
have Michael
Michael
Cristaldi,
Cristaldi,
Jim Galantino,
Jim Galantino,
Pinky, Craig,
Craig Palmisano, and me, right?
Jim Galantino is in here.
Am I being sworn in?
I don't have you.
Oh, okay.
The people that are
Whoever
present.
he just named, please stand up.
All right, Mike Cristaldi, Margaret Gubernalti, and Craig. Please raise your right hands. Repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and in this state under the authority of the people. So help me God. I do further solemnly swear or affirm that I will impartially and justly perform all the duties of the office of planning board member according to the best of my ability. So help me God.
Congratulations. Despina Hess is here. I'd like to hear a motion for approval of decisions and resolutions. 2016 meeting dates, number...
Did you miss it?
What?
Did you miss the election of chairman and vice chairman?
It's not on here. Oh, yeah, it is. I'm sorry. Can I hear a motion for a nomination for chairman of the board?
I nominate Rich Patterson for chairman.
I second that motion.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. I'd like to hear a nomination for vice chairman. Second?
Second. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, did that, get that.
Now back to decisions and resolutions.
Okay. Approval of decisions and resolutions, 2016 meeting dates, number 55, 2015, Kevin and Tracy Grant, number 56, 2015, Mike and Karen Bertoldi, number 57, 2015, Family Brick 3 LLC, number 58, 2015, Mort and Barbara Spiegel, number 59, 2015, Richard and Ava Lubert, number 60, 2015, Lisa and Louis Magazoo, number 61, 2015, Brett Fisher.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None. Motion passes. Is that a record, or 61 cases?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, last year was 50.
Congratulations. 61 cases. I'd like to call Scott up to the... Becker, I'm sorry, Scott Becker up to the... We forget the name Becker in Margate.
Direct that mic to your face.
Oh, it's
Point.
turned on.
No, on the bottom, there's a switch.
Where's Jim Galantino when you need him?
Squeeze it, so it's...
Well,
There you go.
yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Scott Becker. I'm an attorney, and I represent the applicant, Aileen Berman, on 1 North Gladstone. I'm going to ask to carry this matter until your next meeting in February. And I would ask that we not be required to re-advertise. It was advertised properly. As long as the announcement is made at the meeting, I think that is all that is required.
Do we have room at the next meeting?
We have 7 cases, and this would be the 8th case, so it's really up to the board if you want to. I mean, sometimes we lose a case. It's your choice. If not, it has to go to the month after.
Do any cases next month look like an alteration?
Not real, no, not real. I don't think so, no. Scott, does your client have a problem if it went to March?
Well, we would prefer it everybody would prefer their application to be heard sooner, obviously. But in this case, this application is essentially about a woman in her 90s who's trying to get some renovations done so she can move in. So her days are limited, so the sooner we could get it on, the better. The reason we asked to carry the matter tonight is because based on your report, we're going to try and make some modifications, make it more a palatable application.
Well, okay, if you're going to make modifications, then I would recommend to the board that re-notification should be required.
Yes.
Because if people had opportunity to look at it, there's something different to look at, and I think they should be re-noticed.
Yes.
So I would say, let's put it on the agenda, try to deal with it, but in all fairness, let the neighbors know that there's changes. It's not just a postponement of the existing case, you're making changes.
All right.
Scott, there's going to be changes to the actual
Well, what it
application.
is the application is an addition onto the back of the home. And what we're going to do is try to make it a bit smaller
Okay.
so that there's more rear yard setback
All right.
and more side yard setback.
So the plans are going to change then?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I agree with Roger then.
And Scott, there would be a resubmittal date, what is the date of the February? February 25th? February 3rd is the resubmittal date. You have to resubmit 18 new packages. We will save what we can of the packages you've submitted and give them to you.
Yeah, most of it.
Because the plans are changing, the application form will change slightly, we'll need a complete resubmittal. Okay?
The fee that's been paid, is that adequate?
The fee is okay.
Okay.
Yeah, the fee is, wait a minute,
I would like to get a vote of the board. I think this is going to be a complicated case, and I think we should vote on it, whether we want to hear it jammed in next month with 7 other cases. So could you call the roll?
Excuse me, what are we voting on?
Whether to hear it next month where we already have 7 cases or put it off till March.
Okay.
They're going to make the backyard a little bit smaller.
Okay, so everyone understands that February has 7 cases. This would be our 8th. So Tom Collins,
I vote yes.
Wait a minute. What are we voting for?
to add this
Add it to the-
to
To add this to
February.
February. Okay,
To
go
make
ahead.
to be our 8th case.
Go ahead.
Clem Maslewski,
I'd like to ask Scott, you've got 5 days from tomorrow to resubmit. Is that possible?
It is. Harry Harper already knew what he wanted to do. He had already made the preliminary changes, so he should be able to do it within a day, and I can get him in here next week, yes.
All right, then I vote yes.
Mike Richmond,
I vote yes.
Margaret Gubernalty,
What was the date of that meeting? The
28th.
the 28th? I vote yes.
Mike Cristaldi,
I vote yes.
Craig Palmisano,
I'll go yes.
David Carter, Despina Hess,
I vote yes to hear it.
Joe DiGirolamo, sorry, Rich Patterson.
No.
Okay, we have 8 yeses, 1 no. You will be heard.
All right, thank you very much.
Scott, 18 new complete packages.
Understood.
Okay. Oh, excuse me. Please check the date of your, what is it called, your tax list, and make sure
200-foot notification.
you're within 60 days or it would have expired. Remember we
So we're
talked
gonna-
earlier today?
Yeah, well, I guess I'll have to order again, because I think the date of the list was December 23rd.
Okay, you'll need a new, you'll need a new tax list if it was December 23rd? The meeting's
In
February.
case anyone from the public didn't understand what happened, if you're here for the Berman case, that's been postponed until the next meeting.
And you will be renoticed.
This is December 23rd, so it's more than 60 days.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to...
You'll need 2,
I'll order it tomorrow.
first thing, yes.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you very much.
Rich, one clarification on that. That gets added on, so he would definitely be the last case, and we'd have to finish by 11 o'clock. It's our curfew, right?
No,
Is that correct?
if we're going to do it, we're going to do it.
Okay.
First case is Tom Collins is recusing himself, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Seems like it.
Michael Collins, 25 North Gilmore Circle, Block 609.01, Lot 79, in the S40 District, to grant a C variance for right side and combined side setbacks and possibly others. Taxes and water are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. We also, I think, have to accept the credentials of his representative. Is that?
Yeah.
No, that one.
Good evening,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He's licensed in New Jersey?
Yeah, I needed
Okay.
to, I needed to give us his resume.
All right. Mr. Rubin?
Roger Rubin? I do. And before I start, I want to welcome to the table for the first time Roger McLarnon, who you all know, and who is going to take over sometime soon. I also want to welcome back Michael Learn, who I think was the solicitor for this board these many years ago, and it's good to see you up there, Mike.
From 1979, I believe, until 1990 or something.
I wasn't even born then.
Yeah. Nobody on this,
Gray hair back then.
nobody but
And-
Clem
and-
was born, but never
And
mind.
I can obviously say that Mr. Rubin and I went through a lot of
Interesting stuff.
interesting applications.
Interesting
And we didn't
stuff.
always agree. But for the record, Michael Learn appearing on behalf of Brian Callahan and law firm of Callahan and Thompson.
It's not your
attorney
turn yet. See, you're really out of the line. Go ahead. Mr. Rubin?
The subject property is a one-story, single-family house located almost on grade and below flood elevation on an irregular lot, 61 feet by 95.66 feet deep, at the longer right side, with a total area of 5,367 square feet. Per the site plan of Arthur Ponzio Company and the floor plans and elevation drawings of the owner, it is proposed to raise the house to flood elevation, which is 11.0. In the process of elevating, the first floor would be enlarged across the front by between 4.5 and 10 feet deep. A new second floor would be added, resulting in a two-story, four-bedroom house, first and second floor front porches, the width of the house would be added, and a first floor only rear deck is proposed. Variance is required, right side setback. For the enlarged portion of the first floor, the second floor, and the front decks, 2.95 feet is provided versus 10 feet required. Also for the rear porch, which is set back 5.95 feet. Combined side setbacks for the same elements, 22 feet required, and it is 13.8. And front setback for porches. Per the 200-foot survey, 17.0 feet is required. It is 9.16 feet at the closest. Based on the following interpretation, the subject property is not counted. Of the 5 remaining houses within 200 feet, only 2 have porches. Therefore, we consider the closest to the street element of those 5 houses, be it porch or house wall. Then we eliminate the high and the low, and we come up with an average of 16.96, or rounded to 17, for the required porch setback. Comments. Regarding the front porch variance, the curve of the street is such that while the porch is only 9.16 feet back at the closest, it is 22 feet back at the other end, and averages close to the requirement. Further, the front landscaping is abundant at 78%. In addition, the actual house wall meets the required setback of 19.43 feet at the closest and widens to 27.5 feet on the right side. That is the front wall of the house. In a rare situation such as this, with a curved front and a rectangular house, such as houses are, the variances may be considered virtually, if not technically, conforming. Number 2, as to side setback on the right, look at the block map showing sight lines from all houses to the right running toward the street and not across the subject property. Also, the house to the immediate right is separated by 21 feet from the applicant's right wall. 3, the proposed raised and enlarged house is still a modest one with 29.5% building coverage, 36% landscape area as required. The rear setback, other than the rear porch, is close to 30 feet, while 15.5 is required. The house has interesting architectural features such as Victorian eyebrow roof windows, curved elements to the second floor roof, porch roof, and attractive window arrangements. Site visits, as always, will instruct as to whether detriments are present that outweigh attributes. The elevation to FEMA flood level and improvement of the neighborhood aesthetic environment, especially at this notable and noticeable location, are to be considered as well. If approved, revised plans should be submitted with clear call out on the elevation views of the finished first floor at 11, as well as other dimensions to indicate conformity with those on the site plan by Ponzio. This is a modest proposal by a year-round Margate family, which has an overall scale probably less massive than a totally legal 3-story house possible under current zoning.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for Mr. Rubin for reading his report. We concur with the statements given in it. It outlines very accurately what the proposal is. As indicated in the application, and as will be verified by Mr. John Barnhart, who is our professional tonight, incidentally, I have Mr. Michael Collins, who's the principal and owner of the property in question. This is basically a modest application. They're raising the house to comply with FEMA requirements, but fortunately, given the current elevation of the house, it's my understanding that they only have to add an additional 2 rows of block on the existing foundation, and they're maintaining the existing foundation with the existing footprint so that you do not have the effect of a house going up, but with a large space below it that, how do I word this politely, sometimes looks incompatible with the neighborhood, and I think we're seeing some of that, unfortunately. The expansion on the building itself would be compatible with this proposed expansion. This is a classic, and I'm going to submit to the board, this is a classic C1 variance because you have an irregularly shaped lot with the curvature along the circle. And it's also a classic C2 variance where the benefits to be derived by complying with the FEMA elevation, by modernizing the building but not overbuilding the building on the lot, the benefits to be derived from approval of this application will outweigh any potential detriment. And in the detriment, two of the variances, and actually two of the three variances, are basically they're existing nonconformities. And by going straight up and the existing footprint of the building, nothing's changed that isn't already there. The only variances which we are triggering and which we think are appropriate are the decking on the first and second floor of the front, the open-air decking of the front porches. The rear decking, proposed decking, will be totally compliant with all rear yard setbacks, and as Roger has indicated in his report, coverage is not an issue in here, height is not an issue in here. So it's I think given the potential that could be on that lot, this is a very modest but appropriate development for that neighborhood. I know Mr. Barnhart has appeared before this board on numerous occasions. If you need to be qualified, otherwise I just ask him to walk us through it.
You get sworn in?
John Barnhart.
John, and I'm assuming you concur like I do with everything that's in Roger's report. It basically outlines this application concisely. Okay. What's existing there and how are we, first, what's existing there in the way of existing nonconformities and what's the type of structure which is there?
Sure. The property that we're here before you this evening is known as 25 North Gilmore Circle.
John, you know what? You may want to take this.
Yeah.
Sure. The property is known as 25 North Gilmore Circle, and so on the subject site is a one-story bungalow-style home. It sits approximately in the center of the site, and the existing nonconformities as it sits today are with regard to the right side, where it is just under 3 feet, and then the combined side yard setbacks are also a existing nonconforming condition. The proposal is to elevate the home, as you heard Mr. Learn describe, and then also expand the home toward the front to create additional living space on that first level, and then also add a second level to the home to create what will essentially look like a new single-family home on the lot, and we think a very appealing one at that when you look at the architectural plans. The three variances that are necessary this evening we think are very well justified and warranted for an application like this. The first is with regard to the right side setback. The requirement is a 10-foot minimum. What has been proposed is to maintain the existing setback, so we're not getting any closer to our side or to our neighbor to the right. We're maintaining that dimension just shy of 3 feet. But we are going forward with that a little further than the existing condition, and obviously we are going up, so that creates a variance for that right side setback. As Mr. Rubin's report points out, and you can see the outline of it, the benefit we have here is we have a large side yard setback to our adjacent neighbor. So while we are an existing non-conforming condition that we are proposing to continue on, you do still have a nice view, airtight and open space corridor between the two structures, the one on our lot and the adjacent lot. The second portion of that side yard setback variance is the combined side yards. So the left side actually complies to the minimum, but when you add the two together, we are obviously shy of the overall combined setback as a result of that just shy of 3 foot right side. So those two variances, as you know, go hand in hand. The third variance is with regard to the front porch. As Mr. Rubin's report identifies, the front porch average ends up at 17 feet. The way that our porch lays out, at its shortest distance, it's 9.16 feet. But as you get to the other side of the lot, because we are on a curve, and we have a kind of a uniquely shaped lot in the front, the other side of that porch actually complies with the ordinance. So it's that curvature of the front property line and the alignment of the house, parallel to the sidelines is what creates that deviation on the left side of the property. So how do we justify those three variances? I think from a land use standpoint, it's relatively simple in that we think dealing with a hardship situation or a C1 variance because of the unique shape of our lot and because of the existing conditions that we are dealing with of the existing home and elevating it. I think that we also can justify this under a C2 variance because when you look at the architectural plans, you see that you have, first of all, a dramatic improvement in the aesthetic appeal. It's obviously an asset, becomes a much greater asset to the surrounding properties and the community as a whole with the upgrade of this site. And also keep in mind, you're taking yet another building. You guys have done a lot of these, fortunately, but you're taking yet another building out of harm's way with regard to flood requirements. So I think that the deviations that we are asking for, the benefits clearly outweigh the potential detriments. And I described the mitigating factor of the space between the two structures on the side yard. But with regard to the front yard setback, I think the one thing you have to look at is when you're driving or you're walking along Gilmore Circle and you're on a curve, you're kind of always looking tangentially. You're kind of always looking out this way. So as you're coming along the sidewalk, that structure, that porch, I don't think will appear to be as close to the front line as it is actually measured. And furthermore, if you look to the property immediately adjacent to us, you'll see the outline of that structure is very similar in setback to the front property line than what is proposed on that side, again, as a result of that front curve, that curve curving to the right on the plan. So I think the variances are clearly justified from both the positive and the negative criteria, and that the application can be approved.
John, it would be fair to say that the actual neighborhood itself, with the curved lots, curved blocks, actually, what's the word, helps justify the nature of the front yard variance, because you don't have a straight wall line looking up and down the street. You have the curvature.
That's correct.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I have nothing further, Mr. Barnhart, at this point. Unless there's questions of Mr. Collins as to the exact nature of the development, we would rest our application at this point.
Thank you. Does the board have any comments or questions, Clem?
John, the schedule's a little confusing. There's no height problem here, is there? Are you actually lower than you could be?
We are actually lower than we could be, I believe, yes. Yeah, there's no height issue here.
Thanks.
Anyone else have a comment, question? Anyone here from the public who would like to comment, please come forward and be sworn in.
Marshall Avenue, Margate.
Be friendly.
I hope so. Talking to the mic, please.
Obviously, you heard my address. I live on the street right behind Mike Collins. My wife and I have no problem with what Mike's doing. We're all for it. It's only good for the neighborhood, good for the home values. Have no problem at all with what he's doing.
Well, that speaks for the house, but what about the family that's moving in?
I really didn't want to get into that, you know. But no, we're fine with it. We think it's great.
Thank you.
No problem.
Anyone else from the... Please be sworn in. Would you talk into the mic when you're being sworn in, too, for the record? Thank you.
Richard Hill. Yes. 27 North Gilmore Circle. Yes. I'm the next door neighbor, and I'm for it.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Public portion is closed. Any further comments or questions from the board? Can you call a vote? No, is there any modifications?
Yeah, the conditions are, I'd like to see, show the finished first floor on the elevation drawing, provide some other dimensions. If the applicant wants to come in and do them by hand and initial them on the plans, that would be okay. But we need a little bit more detail to conform it to the site plan. Okay?
With that in mind, do I hear a motion? Clem? Second?
Clem Oslowski.
Most of the variance situations here are because of the unusual shape of the lot, which applies to most of the lots in these circles. Other than that, the advantages clearly here outweigh any minimal disadvantages, and I think would be a considerable overall improvement in the neighborhood. I vote in favor.
Michael Richmond?
Yeah, I think the unique situation with the curb lot, like Roger said, it doesn't, in a way, a lot of the variances they're asking for, if the lot wasn't curved, he probably wouldn't even be asking for them, so I'm going to approve it.
Margaret Gubernalty?
I'm in agreement with Mr. Richmond based upon the unique shape of the street. We're raising another property to FEMA regulations. Certainly, it's an aesthetic improvement, and the attributes outweigh the detriments, and I vote in favor of the application.
Mike Cristaldi?
Jim Galantino would have definitely been a yes on anybody helping our CRS for the city. I think it's an improvement for the neighborhood. My vote is yes.
Craig Palmisano?
I'm in agreement with the other planning board members on their statements. Due to the curved street and put a rectangular house on a curved street, you'd have to put a curved front wall to make it really work. And there's no detriment. There's 21 feet to the right side neighbor. I approve this. I approve.
David Carter?
I agree with the other board members, and I think that it's a tremendous plus for the neighborhood. I vote yes.
Rich Patterson?
Even with the added floor, it's a modest house. I don't see any detriments or any impediment of light or air. A tremendous improvement to the neighborhood. I vote yes.
Application passes 7-0.
Thank you all.
Dave, turn your mic off. Next case is Stephen and Jerry Lynn Benson, 302 North Nassau Avenue, Block 616, Lot 36, in the S40 district to grant a C variance for rear and side yard setback, possible landscape variance, and possibly others. Taxes and water are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. Rubin?
Roger Rubin. I do. The subject property is an existing two-story, single-family home with a large garage and family room at grade level, living space, kitchen, etc., at the full first floor level, and 3 bedrooms on the second floor. The lot is 50 feet wide by 63 feet deep, irregular, having a total uplands area of 2992 square feet. In the rear, which faces the Orient Canal, there is presently a full at-grade wooden deck and a very small corner deck at the first floor level. What is proposed per the plans of Barton Barrick Architect is a full first floor canal front deck reflecting the irregular angular rear wall of the house along the entire rear and being 4 feet deep on the northern half and 8 feet deep on the southern ocean side. The ocean side half of the deck would have a roof. The deck would be accessed by the living room and kitchen. The variance is required. Rear setback to the proposed decks, 10 feet is required versus 1.9 feet on the ocean side, widening to 6 feet 5 inches on the north side. Side setbacks regarding the proposed deck, 8 feet is required versus 7 feet 5 inches on the left side and 6.67 feet on the right side. Combined side setbacks, 18.5 feet required. It is 14.07. Considerations. This case depends for the most part on impacts of the proposal to one house, the corner house to the left in terms of view obstruction or not, diminution of sun or air circulation or not, privacy, noise, and aesthetics. There can be no substitute for board member site visits in such a case, and please consider impacts, if any, from that neighbor's grade level and second floor decks, as well as windows. In doing so, consider the height above grade of the proposed deck floor, 8.5 feet, the top of the rail, which is another 4 feet for a total of 12.5, and the deck roof, which tops off around 19 feet above grade. Note that a protruding portion of the applicant's house already blocks views, and much of the proposed deck is within that already blocked corridor. Increased utility and enjoyment of the house for the applicant family is a valid consideration, as well as preservation of the architectural integrity of this unique 1980s architectural specimen. No conditions are recommended at this time.
Can I ask a question before we go? You say the deck will be at 8.5 feet. Where is it now?
Was that clear? Let me look at the plan. Give me a second.
Well, let me rephrase it. How much higher is the new deck going to be than the old deck?
It's the same level as the old deck.
Okay, that was my question.
Sorry.
Thank you. Please be sworn in. Would you all speak in the mic, please? We need this for the record, so.
Yes. Good evening. In July, my husband and I relocated to Margate. Sorry?
Go ahead.
Okay. Relocated to Margate, having lived for the last 20 years on Lake George in upstate New York. Our move was prompted by a decision we made to move closer to our daughter and her family who live in nearby Moorestown. We selected Margate to be the site of our new full-time residence. Being boating and water enthusiasts, we purchased a home located on Orient Canal. And I'm pleased to say that with the exception of the nor'easter in October, the near blizzard of last weekend, and the current sonic boom, we've had a perfect trifecta since we've been here. Thank you. Our purpose tonight is to present to the board our proposal to add a deck off of our living room, which would be connected by a narrow corridor to our current deck. This is requested because the current deck is only approximately 36 square feet, and so at best can accommodate only 2 individuals with a bistro-sized table. By bistro size, I mean a 28-inch diameter and 2 small wire chairs. It's a very small deck, as Mr. Rubin mentioned in his introduction. This, of course, has proven to be completely inadequate when our children visit with their families. The purpose of this proposed addition is to correct this situation. Moreover, with the expert guidance of our architect, we have worked diligently in the design of this addition in an effort to not only be sensitive to, but also to minimize any impact with adjacent properties. With this foremost in our minds, we are proposing a deck that is mostly contained within the contour of our existing exterior 45-inch degree angled wall, so as to have minimal visual impact while at the same time providing us with a reasonable outdoor living space. In simpler words, this proposed deck will be tucked into the corner of the existing, not the corner, the back of the existing rear structure of our home. I would like to thank you for your time and consideration for this proposal. And now I would like to introduce you to our architect, Barton Barak. Barton will answer your technical and structural questions. Barton?
Good evening.
Barb, will you take the microphone, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Hello? The first item I wanted to talk about are the variances that we're seeking. On the rear elevation, on the sidewall facing south, it currently exists at 7 foot 5 inches from the property line, and the setback that's required is 10 foot 6 inches. The deck on that side, we're proposing to match to come out from that existing sidewall. So that's the variance we're seeking on that side. 7'5" for the setback, where 10'6" is required. On the north side of the deck, the existing sidewall is 7'8" from the property line. The existing deck protrudes 1 foot past that wall, so it currently exists at 6'8" of a setback. And that's what we're looking to match. We don't want this deck to be tacked on to the house. We want it to look like it always belonged there. So we're looking to match that existing balcony. So that's the side yard setback we're seeking on that side of the house. At the rear of the house, there's an existing setback of 9'11". And this deck is going to be coming out 8 feet from the back wall of the house. So its setback, we're proposed at 1'11", where 10 foot is required. At the other side, as Roger said, where 10 foot is required, it's going to be around 6.5 feet. So those are the side yards, those are the variances that we're seeking at this meeting this evening. As far as the sizes of the deck and how we arrived at it, based on the way the Bensons want to utilize the deck, this segment here, we're proposing to come out 8 feet to accommodate a couple of chaise lounges, placed at an angle, allowing for a walkway to get by between the ends of the chaise lounges and the inside of the guardrail. As far as the width, by coming approximately to this point, just shy of the kitchen window, it's 15 feet, which accommodates the furniture that they'd be seeking to put on the deck and the way they want to utilize the structure. The remainder of the deck is simply a passageway to get to the existing balcony that's off the breakfast area. And its width of 4 feet, when you subtract the clearance that the guardrail requires, it's going to net out at about 4 inches, which is a modest passageway to get from the main deck to the other side of the house where they can get into the kitchen.
But it's a first floor. This is garage.
As far as the roof that we're proposing, the eave was set at the typical 8-foot line with the beam dropping below it, based on a modest slope to get it to tuck under the existing bedroom window. It's a low slope roof, approximately 3 and 12. So it's really too low of a pitch for shingles. So we're proposing to put a metal roof on there, which would look pretty attractive in our eyes with this style house that Roger referred to as an 80s style of Margate.
Introduce that picture. Thank you. Finally, from a current real estate website, we have obtained photographs showing the corner lot that seems to be the one that has the view issue. We have the view of the lagoon from their best deck vantage point. Using these photographs, Bartle demonstrated the very limited impact our proposal will have on adjacent properties. You will note that the only part that we will be blocking is the next neighbor's dock. No water view is affected.
I'd like to bring it a little closer to you.
Could you show us on there where it will be affected?
This picture was posted on Zillow. If you look at the corner post on the railing system, I'll relate it to this picture. This picture was taken from Benson's kitchen window, which is located right here on the angled wall, approximately right here, and it's looking at the opposite house. Judging by where the corner post is here, you get a pretty good idea that the picture was taken from this panel of the sliding glass door, which happens to be their best view of the Orient Canal, because it enables them to look down the length of the canal. Anyone else within the rear wall of the house also has a view of the canal, but it's not down the length of the canal, it's more across the width, looking towards Pembroke Avenue.
Is that white post that you showed me, the crescent towards back?
This post, yeah, that post is located right there.
That's the neighbor's post.
Yes. That's what I'm trying to show, the view from the neighbor's house that Roger said may or may not be impacted by this proposal.
Excuse me, was that view taken from their balcony?
Yeah, it looks like it was taken from inside the slum, either outside.
The neighbor's house?
The neighbor's house, looking at our house. Actually looking at our house right here.
Yes.
We're looking down the canal.
And show where the deck would be on that picture?
Yeah, the bottom picture shows where the deck's going to be.
See it down the bottom.
That's the roof? It shows that the roof comes out approximately 18 inches from the end of the angled wall.
Oh, you drew that on there?
I did.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Like a foreman's Photoshop.
Got it, okay. I got it.
See, that's the roof. That's existing, that's the proposed.
As far as the deck...
Well, that's not clear. I think if everybody sees that, that's not clear, that you drew that in, that's what it will be when finished, on the bottom picture.
Correct. So what extends past the existing rear wall of our house is the roof at 18 inches past that point.
Bart, move it back so Dave can see it. Yeah, thank you.
18 inches past that point. The picture's good. 6 inches goes past that wall, and 6 inches worth of the deck.
Glass rails.
At the rear, at the northern end of the deck, it extends 3.5 feet past that point, and it's not moved over. I think you can see that there's not much of an impact on the view. It looks like they probably lost about 3 or 4% of an angle.
How did you get the picture from the neighbor's house?
Pardon me, Mike?
Can't hear you.
How did you get the picture from the neighbor's
So they posted 25 pictures, and this was one of them.
Mrs. Benson?
Yes.
Question for you. Have you spoken to the owner of that home, and have they seen your plans?
They had notice of it. I have not seen them. They spend very little time there. They're
So
building
they
another
haven't seen the
home.
plans, and you haven't
I
spoken?
have no
with
idea.
Do you have anything else? Any questions from the board? You have something, Craig?
Yeah.
Is anyone here from the public who would like to speak? Public portion's closed. Any other comments? I'd like to comment that that exhibit was a very important exhibit.
No conditions.
Like to hear a motion with no conditions?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
That we approve the application with the conditions as Roger stated.
Tom Collins?
I vote in favor of the application. I'd like to commend you. You were very classy, professional. You did a better job than some of the attorneys I see here. No offense, guys. I think the application is a asset to the neighborhood. I don't think there's any major detriment. Bart did a wonderful job, and with your pictures on Zillow, actually bringing us inside, gave us a better perspective of what we're looking at. And I think it's going to be nice. I think you're going to improve the neighborhood. You do well, so I vote yes.
Clem Oslewski?
As Roger's report indicates, the only people affected by this are the one neighbor to the south that Tom inquired about. And since they obviously had an opportunity to to come in and state their case and have not. I don't see any problem. I approve.
Mike Richmond?
I think overall the porches are pretty de minimis, and it's not like we're adding more bedrooms or whatever, or like sleeping space, unless people want to sleep on the porch. So I would approve it.
Margaret Gubernalty?
I think it was a tastefully done addition. I am familiar with the house next door, and obviously the neighbors are not here. I don't see a negative impact, so I vote in favor of the application and welcome to Margate, although I love Lake George.
Mike Cristaldi?
I think the Photoshop saved the day. I see no negative impact whatsoever, so I vote yes.
Craig Palmisano?
I have to agree with Mike. The view from the neighbor's porch swung it for me. I vote in favor of it.
Rich Patterson?
The Photoshop did save the day. I was ready to vote no, and just from standing there, looking at it and picturing it in my mind, which was a totally warped picture from what it actually is. So I'm very glad you did that. And it is really much more de minimis than I thought when I was actually on the site visit. So it's a nice design. I don't see any negative impacts to it. So I vote yes.
The application passes 7-0.
Next case is Susan and Fred Kalin, 8700 Winchester Avenue, Block 216, Lot 11, in the S40 district, to grant a C variance for front setback, house and porch, and possibly others. Taxes and water are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. Rubin?
Roger Rubin. Yes, I do. Subject property is a vacant parcel recently demolished at the corner of Winchester and Osborne Avenues with an area of 4,480 square feet, frontage of 56 feet on Osborne and 80 feet on Winchester. Proposed for that site per the plans of Mark Zawacki, architect, is a 2.5-story single-family home with 5 bedrooms, 4 off-street parking spaces, 1 in a garage, a rear yard swimming pool, front porch, and second-floor deck, and abundant landscaping. Variance is required. Front setback on Winchester for the house wall, 19.1 feet is required. The plan shows 15.5 feet to the closest point and 17 feet to the balance of the house. Front setback on Winchester for the porch, 15 feet is required versus 14 feet regarding the side of the porch facing Osborne. Setback of the pool fence on Winchester, 19.1 feet is required, same as the house wall, versus 17 feet as laid out. Bay projection. There's a 2-foot stairway bay projection on the driveway side yard. The ordinance says at 175-30C1 that such bays may project only in the front, rear, or larger side yard. This is the smaller side yard. Comments. I note that the first floor is shown at elevation 12 in AVD 1988, but per FEMA and our ordinance in this location, it should be elevation 11. We are assuming the applicant is not proposing a variance for this and will revise plans accordingly. At elevation 11, there would be a crawl space of 42 inches, which is generally sufficient. Number 2, revised plans should contain a certification that the third floor area meets the 50% requirement of the ordinance, if approved. Number 3, the setback variances will relate to impacts, if any, per planning board member's site visits. Note the rather large side setback of 21.5 feet from this house to the property line of the house next door on the corner of Pembroke.
Thank you, Mr.
Excuse me, Chris, I'm within 200 feet of this, so I have to step down.
Thank you, Mr. Wozniacki. Members of the board, my name is Chris Bayless, and I represent Fred and Susan Bailey. We're here this evening regarding property they own at 8700 Winchester Avenue. Winchester Avenue, the corner of Winchester and Osborne. We all remember that house. It was a relatively nondescript rectangular house with no projections from it at all. It's very, very plain. What you'll see in place of that, what's proposed, is a very attractive 5-bedroom house that Mark Zawacki's designed. For the record, the property is lot 11 in block 216. As I said, it's the corner of Winchester and Osborne. The project that proposed is a new single-family home on a corner property, which, for purposes of the front yard setback, this is one of the greater combinations of front yards I've seen in a while. The requirements are 19 feet on Winchester, and I think 17 on Pembroke. So you have fairly substantial front yard setback requirements on both sides. What is it? 16 is required on Osborne. Say again? Okay. What is proposed this evening is a request to deviate from those from the front yard setback requirement on Winchester Avenue only. The required front yard setback on Winchester is 19.1 feet. What is proposed is 15.5 feet for a couple of projections, but primarily a 17-foot setback on the Winchester Avenue side of the house. That's the main variance driving this application. The other front yard on Osborne meets ordinance requirements. Since the pool fence on Winchester lines up with the house, that would also have to be included in the variance request. So what we have then is just the variances with respect to the front yard setback on Winchester. The house otherwise complies in all regards to the ordinance. If you look at it, you'll see that building coverage is low, landscaping is substantial, and front yard landscaping is almost 100%. Lot landscaping is up in the 60%, where 35% is required. You've got really nice open space on each side of the house, in excess of 15 feet on each side, both on the Winchester Avenue side yard where the pool is and the front yard off of Osborne. So you've got, if you look at the survey from what was done previously as to what you have now, the house really is situated very similar to where the other house was for the impacts on the neighbors. But of course, it's a new house, it's 3 stories, but otherwise complies with the ordinance.
What about the 12-foot? Was that a mistake, or
12-foot will be dropped over. Yes, that will drop to 11.
28 over 11? Okay.
What's happening?
And I need to say one more thing, Mark. With respect to the projection in the driveway, I don't think that's a variance, only because 8'6" is required. 8 foot is required in the side yard of that lot. That's an 8'6", and the combined side yards are almost like 25 feet. So
I quoted a section.
I understand that, and the section exists.
Can I go to the trouble to quote a whole section?
Complies with the section.
Chris, this is why we're getting rid of them.
New young sharp brain probably picked up on that.
Chris, it's safer to let us vote on the variance.
That conforms to the ordinance, I think you'll find. It doesn't project into the...
I don't agree. I disagree. It says the larger side yard.
But the setback...
But it's part of the building that meets the side yard setback requirement.
It's still within the setback, you're saying.
It meets the setback requirement.
You mean with the
Let me
projection
think
now?
about that.
Chris?
However, Mark Zawacki designed the house downstairs.
I said with the projection out, it's still within the 8'6".
Mark Zawacki.
Mark, you're a licensed architect in New Jersey.
Yes, I am.
And designed the house that the board is reviewing and that we are hoping to get started.
That's correct.
Would you kindly highlight some of the areas I touched upon? The board has the rendering. If you want to refer to that, it's part of the...
Okay, we're requesting a 17-foot setback on the Winchester side, of course, which the average, due to the fact that we have one house on that block, we have to conform to that setback. which normally we would throw that out in the normal sense, but they changed the ordinance that you would have to conform to the particular house and play here. So we're stuck with that. We're stuck with that. Now, we're looking for a variance for a porch.
Mark, can you turn to the board, please? I'm sorry.
We're looking for a variance for a porch here, which the average porch was 15.6, and we're at 14 feet, which is a slight projection right here in the front. Very small little bay, okay? The required setbacks, I believe, is 21 feet on the side yards. We have a 16 feet and a 10, and if you take the 16 plus an 8'6", we're over 24 feet. So we're over the required setback for the side yards. We are going to drop the house down to 11. I know I've been running into this with Ventnor and Longport. When you establish the flood elevation at 12 or 11, they're telling me that everything has to be pressure treated below it. I checked with Jimmy today, and they're keeping 11 as the finished floor elevation. We will not have to pressure treat the framing.
So the plan will be revised to show the first floor 11?
That's correct.
And the height dimension from 11 as opposed to 12?
Exactly.
And the remainder of the project is more than the ordinance requirements?
Yes, we're under building coverage. We're at actually 28% building coverage, which we're allowed 32.5%. So we're way under coverage. We're way over our landscape coverage.
The landscaping is about 100% in the front yard,
That's correct.
and maybe 60% versus 35 for the whole lot.
That's correct.
And all the other dimensional requirements are met for the ordinance?
That's correct. Or exceed.
Do you have any ductwork under the floor?
Excuse me?
Is there any ductwork under the floor?
I haven't gone through mechanical drawings yet, but
Well, the ductwork has to be at 11 too.
or you have to waterproof it.
I'm sorry.
Or you'd have to waterproof it.
We're not going to get into that now. But Roger points out that even at 11, we still have about 42 inches.
Yep, I think so.
Yeah, we're 2 feet above the flood elevation.
I had to raise my house
I
another
understand.
foot to get the ductwork in there.
Either way, we will
Okay.
conform. We're not asking for any relief with respect to
Okay.
where the...
Chris, I have a question for you.
Yes.
On this pretty picture that was circulated to the board, okay,
Can I withdraw it now?
doesn't match the drawings that were
Well,
submitted?
they do. The only thing is, of course, when I was working with the render, I started adding the Bahama shutters on it and giving
I'm
it...
talking about the second floor projection of this corner here?
That's not
Which
there.
is not?
That's not there. No, it's only on the
Looks
first
like
floor.
it's there.
It's-
All right, I withdraw the exhibit.
That's the artist, you know, that's what happens with the artist.
So
Withdraw the exhibit.
that's not going to be there?
No, it's not.
Tom, what was Tom's question?
Greg?
Up on the top corner here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this piece right here.
So this drawing is not so accurate.
This is not accurate.
Mr.
Right
Zawacki,
here.
the fence on the side
That's
protrudes.
actually there because that's a shower enclosure right there.
Disregard the drawing.
The fence does not protrude 3 foot out. The fence will be equal to the house? Right, the fence is equal to the
The
house.
fence is equal to the house,
The
correct.
fence lines up with the house.
Mike, turn your mic on.
Is this 15.6, is this part of the side yard variance, the Winchester variance here? Because it says it's a
Yes.
bay. It is?
Yeah.
Why would that be if it's a bay projection? I thought that they
Well, the
were...
bay is not the projection, it's actually the deck is the variance is for the
Because
deck.
Mike, because the house is already in the setback. So anything projecting off the house,
I get you. All right, I get it.
the house is in by about a foot.
Right.
Thank you, that's all I have. Balance are here. But I don't know if they even fill in.
Any other questions from the board? Anyone here from the public who would like to comment? Please come forward and be sworn in. Would you give him the mic?
Joseph Abdallah, 16 North Osborne.
And spell your last name, please?
Abdalla. I'm the property next door on Osborne.
Okay. Please raise your right hand. Swear to testify you give
Yes. I understand the house was purchased on Winchester, and the front's going to be on Osborne. I have no objection, but my concern is the setback. Is the setback, I know they explained everything, but I didn't understand it all. Is the setback going to be the same as all our houses on Osborne?
Yes, on Osborne, it is going to be 15 feet back.
Whatever my house is and all the others on Osborne.
We have to meet the average now on Osborne.
Okay.
So like 16 feet back.
Whatever our houses are, I don't know.
No, we're not asking for any variances for the Osborne Avenue.
And what about to the, between our houses? Is it going to be the same setback as the previous house?
Pretty close. It's within a couple feet. I can show you, if you look at, I can show you.
That's pretty close.
Here's Winchester. Here's Osborne. I think that setback is what you're looking at.
6 inches further back.
Yes. How many feet is it?
It's, Mark, can you help me out there?
It's exactly the same. Wall is the same. Porch.
Got 8'6", that's going to be there now, which is
8'6", man, that's tight.
All right, I have no problem with
that
that.
dimension, and that's they're going to be just about.
I have no problem with that. My main concern was the setback on Osborne.
Well, can I add something to that? Well, according to the architect's calculations, sir, according to the architect's calculations, the wall of the house will line up. The wall of the house will line up exactly with the front wall of your house at 16 feet. However, the porch, their porch will be 9 feet from the property line. Yours is 13 feet. And that's because there's an averaging down the block.
But nobody else's.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a 9-foot porch at 10 North Osborne, 9.1-foot porch at 8 North Osborne, and after eliminating the high and the low, that's legal. So their porch will be a few feet further toward the street than yours. The wall of the house will line up with yours exactly.
At the house will, but that'll be the only porch set forward. If you look down Osborne,
As I just said,
we're all lined up.
We have the measurements, that's not true. There's other houses, the average is 9 foot.
the architect has certified under license as to the front of the porches. Yours
Now,
is
you're
30.
probably right.
Yeah, okay.
All right, I'm going to take a look. Thank you.
8 and 10 North are the ones you want to look at.
Fine, 16. I'm right next door. So,
16 North, you're at, 16 North is 13. So
Right.
you're 4 feet, you're about 4 feet behind, that's the porch. The houses are perfect.
my porch and my house is exact.
Yes, the house is exact, the porch is going to be a little bit behind ours. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public portion's closed. Dave, you have a question? You look confused.
No comment.
Any conditions?
Revised plans showing elevation 11 for the first floor, and certification that the third floor meets the 50% requirement.
Hear a motion with those conditions?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Tom Collins?
The architectural plans that we are seeing here versus what was there totally reshaped the neighborhood, in my opinion. I think you did an excellent job. Would make one recommendation to make it easier for the board. You jammed everything in here on one page, and it's so small to scale that it's hard without this picture to actually come up with what you're actually conceiving, and you did such nice work, you want to show it off a little bit more instead of squeezing it in. Other than that, the actual bays and the offsets and just the whole aesthetics of this house are going to really improve that neighborhood. It's beautiful. I think it's going to really be nice for the neighborhood. I don't see any negative impacts to the neighborhood, nothing but positive. So I vote in favor.
Mike Richmond?
Yeah, I agree that in a lot of respects, the new house is similar to the footprint of the existing house. And, for Winchester Avenue, I don't think it's really going to be a big impact in the neighborhood. And like we said, there's not even a variance for the Osborne setback, so I'm going to approve it.
Margaret Gubernalty?
I'm in agreement with the comments Mr. Collins and Mr. Richmond made. I think it's an improvement. Thank you for keeping the coverage under the percentage, and I vote in favor of the application.
Mike Cristaldi?
I kind of like the project. I'm glad they clipped the right front corner. Everything else seems to fit and not much different than what we're doing, so I vote yes.
Craig Palmisano?
Tom Collins said it all, pretty much. There's no detriment to the neighborhood. It's a big improvement, a very nice structure. The setback requirements on Winchester, I don't think it's pretty minimus. I vote for a project.
David Carter?
I vote yes and agree with the project based on the revised change, and I think it's a nice-looking project. Thank you.
Rich Patterson?
I agree with exactly what Mrs. Gubernaldi said, especially it's not an overbearing house. It's not too much for the lot. It's a very nice design, and I think it'll help all the neighbors' values. I vote yes.
The application passes 7-0.
Next case is David Lieberman, 7810 Marshall Avenue, Block 805, Lot 2, in the S40 District for C variance related to elevating house higher than 3 feet above BFE per state law and possibly related to porch and house additions and possibly others. Taxes and water are current and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. Rubin?
Roger Rubin. I do. The subject property is an existing split-level house on a lot of 60 by 70 feet, 4,200 square feet, situated within a row of 6 almost identical houses on the south side of Marshall Avenue between Douglas and Minnie Creek. The lower right side of the house is on a slab, and the left side on a small crawl space. Grade and slab elevations are 6.0 and 6.5 feet respectively, NAVD 1988. And it is proposed per the Donald Zacher architect plans to elevate the home so the lowest right side floor is at elevation 15.4, which exceeds the requirement of 11.0, and which also exceeds 3 feet above the base flood elevation of 8. Total house height would top off at 28 feet above elevation 11. In addition to the raising of the house, a new roofed first floor porch is proposed. Doesn't require variance. The existing driveway would be replaced by grass, and under-house parking would be provided with 1 space underneath and 2 in front on the left side of the house. Also, a new second floor on top of the left side would be built for a bedroom enlargement. Part of that second floor rear left addition would project over the elevated rear first floor deck at that location, which slightly increases building coverage. The total of 5 bedrooms requires 3 parking spaces as shown. The landscaping pattern will change slightly due to the driveway shift and the required stairs from the elevated house down to the ground, front and back. But total lot landscaping remains high at 43.5% compared to 35% required, and front landscaping meets the requisite 60%. The variances required are 2. Note there are no setback variances created by the new front porch or the second-floor addition. The variances are principal building coverage, 34% is permitted. It is 36.4% now, would go to 38.5 if approved. That's an 87.5 square foot addition, as noted in the rear. Variances due to state law restricting a house raising to 3 feet above base flood elevation. This would include side setback, 5.06 versus 10, combined sides, 15.06 versus 22, and rear, 10.62 versus 14. Because the house would be raised to 4.4 feet above what is allowed by that state law, you can apply your consideration to the top 4.4 feet of the house. Comments? As stated above, but for the state law, our ordinance allowed elevating a house to any level at or above the required BFE plus 3, as long as the total house height was within that BFE plus 3, which it is in this case. There is no height variance, nor any discrepancy with the intent of Margate zoning, only the necessity to deal with the state matter. 2, all additions to this now flood-resistant house comply with all setbacks. For example, the new second-floor addition is pulled in from the left side and meets the front and rear setbacks, as does the new front porch. 3, removal of the existing right side driveway and replacement with driveway strips at the new parking location, even in consideration of the large new front and rear steps, nets a better landscape and drainage plan than previously existed. And finally, site inspections will indicate that distances to both side neighbors, as well as the rear house, are considerable at about 20 and 25 feet respectively. This application may be considered a stylus for the block face, so to speak, a model for the other 5 houses on this block, as well as the same for Burke Avenue a block away. What is accomplished? Keeping a house that reflects the neighborhood character at flood elevation and in an improved modernized architectural version thereof. Furthering the longevity of housing in the neighborhood style, avoiding another 3-story McMansion, improving landscaping and drainage as well as parking, and doing so with no appreciable detriment to neighbors. This is perhaps a forerunner for the way this neighborhood should go in the future and a good use of the board's variance authority. No conditions are suggested at this time.
Before you start, Eric, you and John, I want you to know the board has very strong feelings that these type cases should not be heard before the board. We're forced to hear it before the board, and so I don't have to subtly stop you from talking through your case. Just please keep it as short as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I agree with what you said. The state law is odd, but we'll do what we have to do to satisfy the government. Having said that, Eric Goldstein on behalf of the applicants, David and Ally Lieberman, Mr. Barnhart, Mr. Zach are here to be sworn in. We'll try to go through as quickly as we can. And the Liebermans are here in the event you want to hear testimony about how their house was damaged and how we intend to repair it as a result of the house raise. So John and Don.
We need to hear what you need to have on the record. We really don't need to hear anything else.
We'll establish the positive and negative criteria.
Fine.
If the board would like anything further, then
Thank
we'll
you.
turn it over to the community.
John Barnhart? I do.
Donald Zacher?
Mr. Zach or Mr. Barnhart have testified professionally before this board. We just ask you to accept the testimony as professional.
Yes.
John, why don't you walk us through that?
Sure. Mr. Patterson, was that directed at me?
No.
Okay, very briefly. The application is very simple. The Liebermans have gone to great extent to elevate their home. They're bringing the home straight up. They would like to get a garage, some garage space under it, some storage. Application you're very familiar with. It brings it up above the allowable 3-foot height. Therefore, variances for all the nonconformities, or all the nonconformities then become variances, as we know. The impacts to our neighbors, in our opinion, are very minor. I think that this is easily categorized as a C1 and a C2 variance. The hardship is that they're stuck with the conditions that they have, and they're going straight up. The C2 condition is that this is a dramatic beautification to their structure as a result, as you can see from the Zacher plans. The other variance that's created as a result of this, outside of the, just the elevating of the home, is there's a small addition that goes over the existing, there's an existing frame deck in the rear that will get rebuilt up with the house. There's a small addition that Mr. Zachary proposed to enlarge a bedroom in that rear area that increases the building coverage just slightly, so you see a 2% increase in building coverage. It's already coverage by way of a deck. The impacts are very de minimis. It's, I think, 87 square feet is the total area. So I think, you know, the benefits of this deviation clearly outweigh the detriments. We're going to comply with flood. We don't have negative impacts to our neighbors, and for those reasons, we think the variances can be granted.
Beautiful.
Just walk through, Don, if you would, very briefly, and explain to the board the architectural elements you're adding to the property and how the house raise is going to impact the neighbors, if at all.
Sure. We're proposing to elevate the house and create a one-car garage below. We're going to be losing one bedroom on the first habitable floor. It'll be replaced with a laundry room and a set of stairs that accesses a storage area below and provides eventual access into the garage. The second floor is going to have an addition proposed to be 2 bedrooms and a bath. Because of the distance we have from the front to the back, we need a minor building coverage variance of 87 square feet, which actually represents the rear part of the rear second bedroom. Aside from that, we're refacing the house with new siding, changing windows, and changing the aesthetic entirely with some stone facings, and just changing the total character of the house from what it was to what it is now. One of the exhibits that I had submitted, which you have, is the new proposed front elevation. Which is represented by drawing P4 and EX1, or rather EX2, is the present appearance of the facade. So the change in the character is vast by virtue of what you see on the front elevation of P4. Any questions I can clarify for you all?
No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone from the board?
Thank you, Mr.
have any
Zachary.
comments? Are you done, Eric?
We have no further comment unless the board has
Is there
questions.
anyone here from the public that would like to comment? Please come up.
Just for the record, I would like to say that I am also a neighbor. I live within 200 feet of the Liebermans. I think this project is terrific for our neighborhood. Although there's no one else here from the neighborhood, I greatly support it, not only as their attorney, but as their neighbor. With that, we rest.
Thank you. Public portion is closed. Any other board comments? Is there any conditions? No. No conditions? I'd like to hear a motion with no conditions.
Tom Collins?
I vote in favor of the application. I think this is very de minimis. Raising the house above the 3 feet because they have variances, which require us to vote on it, is tough, but I mean, that's something that the state mandated. So I think it's going to be a nice improvement to the neighborhood. It'll improve our overall FEMA ratings, and I think it'll be a nice for Margate, so I vote
Glenn
yes.
Wozleski?
The increase in coverage is insignificant. Raising of the house, of course, is all important. The minor variances required are basically Sandy variances, so I vote yes.
Mike Richmond?
I agree with Clem, and I'm going to vote yes.
Margaret Cooper-Nolte?
We are making the property flood compliant. I see us as setting the stage for the future of that neighborhood, which we do want to preserve our primary neighborhoods, and it's a good improvement, so I vote in favor of the application.
Mike Cristaldi?
Again, another Sandy victim. I think they did a great job putting it together. If you live back by Minnie Creek back there, and there's a lot of families that are right back in there, I think it's going to be good for the neighborhood. I vote yes.
Craig Palmisano?
Another house that's flood compliant, aesthetically pleasing, and I vote in favor of it.
Rich Patterson?
I'd like to apologize to the applicant that you had to go through this expense to come here. It's a great project. I'd like to commend the architect. He's done a nice job in keeping a nice house in the neighborhood. I agree with all the other comments the board members made, and I approve the application.
Application passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Next case is John Nyman, 201 North Mansfield Avenue, Block 413.01, Lot 11, in the S40 District, to grant a C variance for front setback on Monmouth Avenue and possibly others. Taxes and water are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. Rubin?
Roger Rubin. Yes, I do. The subject property is a vacant parcel, recent demolition, at the corner of Mansfield and Monmouth Avenues, with frontage of 38 feet on Mansfield and 80 on Monmouth, and a total area of 3,040 square feet. As only 2,500 square feet is required in S25, and as there is at least one dimension with more than 40 feet in width, that is the 80-foot width along Monmouth, this is a conforming lot as we have so interpreted Section 175-37F5 for the last 12 years, and there is no lot size variance. The proposal herein, per the plans of Donald Zacher, architect, is for a 2.5-story, 5-bedroom house with 4 parking spaces, one of them in a freestanding garage off of a driveway from Mansfield Avenue. Variance required. The only variance appears to be the cited one on the application, the front setback on Monmouth, 5 feet versus 7.8 feet as required by the one house next door at Monmouth and Lancaster. Comments. This is similar to a variance granted recently 1 block away from Mr. Reynolds at Monmouth and Nassau, a house currently under construction. That house was the same size lot, and a variance was granted for front setback on Monmouth from 8.9 feet to 5 feet. As herein, there were other variances in that case, including building height. Number 2, as in that case, part of the justification is the ordinance imposed prohibition on driveways on through streets like Monmouth. 3, the proposed house, although 2.5 stories, needs no height variance and shows a large setback of 16 feet to the house on the Lancaster corner, greatly reducing any impacts of the variance. Finally, additional compensations include much more landscape area than required, front and total, as well as lower building coverage, 31.5, than the permitted 39.5. No conditions are suggested.
Thank you, Mr. Rubin. Eric Goldstein on behalf of the applicant, John Nyman. With me tonight are Mr. Nyman and Don Zacher. I suppose they should both be sworn. If the board wants to hear from Mr. Nyman, we'll save that for last. But Mr. Zacher, would you please come get sworn and then present the application?
Donald Zacher. I do.
Mr. Zacher, you heard what Mr. Rubin had to say about his report. It read into the record. Would you please walk through the proposed site plan and explain to the board the project you've prepared and what variances are necessary?
Good evening. The lot is 80 feet by 38. Because of the narrowness of the lot at 38 feet, we're seeking a front yard variance along Monmouth Avenue. Based on the averages of the properties within 200 feet, the required front yard setback for the building is 7.79 feet. And we're proposing a 5-foot setback, which is the only variance. We meet or exceed all the other bulk requirements.
Mr. Zacher, do you see any detriment to granting the variance being 5 feet versus the required 7.8?
I do not. It's consistent with the neighborhood, and I think it's an aesthetic enhancement to the general scheme of the surrounding houses.
Fair to say that the benefits of this variance is the working that
I do, yes, indeed.
I just see another thing along the main street here.
Oh, yeah, but it's not a main street. No, it's
like a pen roof or anything.
This is nice.
Yeah, I know. What's this?
That's something on top of the garage? Oh, is that the garage roof?
Oh, that's a roof going up?
That's the garage.
That's the garage roof, the air conditioning compressors on top.
Okay. Didn't look like a roof.
Looked like a railing. I would just like to make a comment, and this is something that the board discussed when we're talking about the new master plan, is when houses front on both streets, that they make both sides almost look like the front of a house. This is pretty nice on the front half, and then you have a tall blank wall towards the back half. There's going to be new requirements. There's not requirements right now. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. If we could jazz up the side of the house that faces the main street here.
Yes, indeed, we will.
Along Monmouth Avenue.
Having a great idea, he actually said that's something he was considering doing anyway, so. Good.
I'm just outside the 200-foot limit, so I'll be looking at this house.
Richard, let me ask you a question. If on the side street then, if Mr. Zacher, because he has some bump outs in architecture on that side, but in the back part, if he did a little bit of a bay, is that kicking another variance to make it architectural? And if it does, if they're agreeing to do something like that, we can incorporate it now. And
That'd be great. We did advertise for other variances that may be necessary. So to the extent an architectural designer in the future raising variance.
but you need to talk to your...
Yes. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Get it now, even if they don't do it. I think what he's saying is if a variance would hold you up from doing something there, we'd be willing to grant a variance.
The side of the house we're concerned about is already at 5 feet, so we'd be going less than the minimum if you bump down anything on that side. So if that's something more to consider, we would like to do that. But
Well, like a bay window or something wouldn't be. We don't have to bump the whole house out.
Objection there. Are you going to request a variance for a bay projection there?
You don't have to do it. You can request a variance. Yeah.
what I'm saying is probably not we can make to dress up the sign in a way that makes it look more appealing at the front versus just...
Exactly.
Correct. We intend to add some windows, some landscaping, some additional trim.
We're talking about the building itself.
Facing the foundation wall in parts with some stone, rather than just totally have it a stucco foundation.
This is what we're looking at here, not the landscaping. We're looking at some...
The Monmouth Avenue elevation.
Yeah, the back half of the house is a big flat
Yeah, the
wall.
big flat.
It's a sheer wall there on the street.
What if you put some tall evergreens in that blank wall? No good?
Do something with the house. Give the house some definition.
Trees will do that.
We're going to be adding more windows to this area here. And we're going to be facing areas of the stone of the foundation wall.
Don, if you took that little roof that you have over the two windows to the left and just continued that,
The pent roof. Put a pent roof across the side.
just continue that over the other windows.
Oh, this paint room?
Yeah, just continue that. That
With
would
some
almost
windows
do
down
it.
there.
We could. Yeah, that'll help enhance the facade.
Something that, suggestion that we could make from this end of the table is essentially to make it symmetrical and repeat the pattern you have in the front half of the house to the back half, so it's almost mimics the same look.
But you got to look at the floor plan.
Yeah, if it matches. But we're in agreement with that roof, adding that roof
If you
line.
extend that roof, you don't affect the floor plan at all.
Right. It's already got 5 feet.
How far would you extend it?
Past the three windows the same amount that it passes the single window at the left-hand end.
Here, like to here.
That would considerably visually reduce what Rich is referring to as a blank wall.
So Mr. Bowman considering it.
Can't hear you, Eric.
Drop the mic.
What Mr. Nyman was saying is he would consider...
Leave that open.
Yeah, leave it back open where we were. One of the considerations, I think, would be to bump out with the bay window towards the front of the house in this area here. Now, this would put us out past 5 feet from Monmouth, but he would also do windows all throughout this part of the house, so you'd have more of a projection this way, and then this blank wall would disappear, and there'd be windows and some decorative elements around the windows as well. So if that's something the board would consider, and we didn't want to push it with going out closer than 5 feet, but Mr. Nyman believes that he can get some good architectural relief right in here and here and here.
Want to reconvene the committee?
So we would like that.
Yeah, we'll do the same thing with that. Yeah, we did this last month. We'll approve the application, do your modifications, bring them in for committee approval of 3 people, and you're done. No other meeting, no notification.
With that, the applicant rests.
Okay. We just went through that, and it was a very easy process.
Sure. I was involved in that one, and it was remarkably easy. I got the plans back sooner than the one that wasn't requiring additional. Okay, so we're done. I said how quickly that you, I think I had those back in 3 or 4 days.
What I said was, we'll approve the application subject to further approval by a 3-person committee when they come up with the new plans for that area. It won't require any notification, it won't require any further approval. We did it on the house at Madison and Ventnor Avenue, and it worked very well.
Okay, who's the 3-person?
Just can't create,
What?
you just can't create variances because you can't do that. It creates variances.
Can't do what?
The elements that they're going to put in create
No,
variances. I know what
we're
you're saying.
approving the variances for a bay window.
Well, you could say that
Right.
the committee
Okay,
can
we'll say that on
approve,
record.
the committee can approve a projection of not more than 2 feet, within the front setback.
That will be variance-free still, or will, what?
No, it would be an enlargement of the already requested variance.
Would it be a front then, right? Front yard?
Yeah, they're already asking for a 5-foot front variance.
Excuse me, Roger?
It would be up to 3 feet at certain points.
Okay.
If we're at 5 feet now, we're giving them another 3 feet, that puts us at 2 feet?
No, 2 feet.
Well, then that puts us at 3 feet.
Just for a projection, not for the foundation.
Yeah, but this is subject to the committee. The committee's not going to let them push the whole wall out.
I understand that.
Just something tasteful.
That's first floor height.
Yeah.
Something similar as if they duplicated the front part on the back part, something similar to that.
You have to name the
One
committee.
suggestion in there?
The committee will be...
Roger just made a good point to me, Roger number 2 here, that whatever aesthetic you do shouldn't exceed 15%.
50% of the facade. Okay, good.
Okay? That way, we have perimeters on what we're voting on.
There's your variance.
Yes.
Right.
And the committee will be Roger 1, Tom Collins, and Clem Wesleski again.
Okay.
Anything else?
That is all, thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the board? Is there anyone here from the public that would like to comment? Public portion is closed. Roger, would you read, or Stan, who wants to read? This is a little complicated. Roger, you want to do it?
Just on Roger.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. Approval with the condition that 8 sets of revised plans be submitted for approval by committee of Roger 1, Clem, and Tom Collins, who will deliberate upon and approve, if they wish, architectural features to the blank wall on Winchester Avenue, which may project not to exceed 2 feet further toward the street and not to exceed 15% of the area of the facade on Winchester Avenue. I'll tell you later. Done. He's getting
Is that it?
Yeah.
Hear a motion with those conditions?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Tom Collins?
I vote in favor of the application. I think with the couple variance changes on the corner side that Mr. Patterson brought up really make a big difference in terms of the positive impact on the neighborhood. I don't really see any detriment to this. I think Mr. Zacher did an excellent job designing. He just has to remember when we do corner lots that we're going to look at them a little bit differently as we go forward. And I think it'll be a positive for the city, so I vote yes.
Clem Oslowski?
Well, one of the reasons for needing the variance is the fact that the lot's only 38 foot wide, where most common is a 40 foot width. So that would take down to needing almost less than a foot actual variance. I see no problem with that. And not being able to bring cars off of the through street and forcing the driveway onto the side street further justifies it. So I vote for the variance.
Mike Richmond?
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Patterson that jazzing the side up a little bit would be a good thing. Otherwise, you know, we still have the 5-foot setback there, so I'm going to approve it.
Don't throw them out.
Margaret Gubernalty?
I agree with the prior statements that the board members made, and I vote in favor of the application.
Mike Cristaldi?
The 38-foot lot does create a problem, and we do need to work with them, and I think we're coming up with much better ideas. Keep in mind that I live on Monmouth Avenue. Your sunlight, the windows on that wall will really brighten the home up. I approve the application.
Craig Palmisano?
I agree with the other board members' comments, and I approve this project.
Rich Patterson?
Having a 38-foot lot, like Clem said, the 38-foot lot's a problem. The 10-foot for the driveway on the skinny side of the lot is a problem, so absolutely justifies it. I think the board needs to know this was a filthy, disease-ridden, disgusting, falling-apart house that was on that lot for 100 years. If you would like to hear my real opinion, this is going to be a tremendous help to the neighborhood. All the other 3 corners have been redone, and this was quite an eyesore for years. Literally, the house was falling apart into the streets while people lived there. I hope it wasn't you, sir. I approve.
Thank you.
Application passes 7-0.
Other business?
Rich, is that mean your property value's going up? Do you live in that neighborhood?
Taxes.
Is that what you were saying?
You wouldn't have bought it if I hadn't put my house there.
Return?
No, we have other business. I think so. I think so, yes. Do we need a break?
Okay, so are you coming back to the new staff committee, or just the one you... Okay. Oh, just so we're all going, what is this?
I don't know how many there are. 2 things. With phase 1 of the, what's it called? Phase 1 of the post-Sandy grant came twice before us. We made some modifications. We approved these modifications, and John Barnhart's going to be making a presentation at some point, sometime in February before the commission. One of our board members that sits on the commission meetings reported that there were some objections from the solicitor and engineer as to the raising the bulkhead heights to 9 feet on the bayfront area. And I feel that, for one, we're not raising the bulk heights, we're making them consistent. Right now, they're at 7 to 9 feet. Is it 7 or 7.5?
7.5.
7.5 to 9 feet. We're making it consistent at 9 feet, so there's a barrier there. Secondly, this is a 100-year plan. This is not immediate for anybody. This is as bulkheads need to be replaced. And third, Margate's repeatedly stated that it needs better bayfront protection, and it'd be counterproductive to not make the bulkhead consistent at the current 9 height. I would like to suggest that, if possible, Despina Hess appear at that commission meeting and speak after John Barnheidt for those 3 points of why the board was very adamant about the 9-foot height for the bulkheads. We dropped it from 10 to 9 on the outside part, but why the board was consistent. And I would just like a vote of the board that she, if possible, could, when we find out the date, if she could appear at that meeting to state the board's position.
Bring something up. Ventnor, I think, is looking at putting their bulkhead up. Pleasantville's already got it up back in the back there, and we got a Ventura coming through the back here.
Well, personally, I was surprised that there was any objection. I was
I'm just
shocked that
saying
there
it's
was
just something for us to look at as we go down the road here.
Mm-hmm.
If north of us just keeps building up and we don't stay with them, water's got to go somewhere.
Right.
What height are we with the new bulkheads?
Currently, you have a choice, 7.5 to 9.
7.5, why 7.5?
That's what it is currently. It's anywhere between minimum 7.5, maximum 9. What the board proposed was making it a mandatory 9.
Right.
Just bringing it up to the higher level. We're not raising it from what it used to be. We're bringing it to the higher level, and no choice. Because of the storm, we don't want bulkheads high and low. We want consistent bulkheads around the island.
This last storm, I just took pictures down Vendome Avenue. There's a property that's torn down, and there is no bulkhead at all. Dilapidated. Can anything be done about bulkheads that are non-existing?
You
Yeah, that's a separate issue. Right now, we want to get, we don't want this modified by the commission.
Rich, just for a clarification point, and I'm with you, because I wanted higher than 9, but I did have a conversation with Mr. Abbott, and his justification for this was that there's a couple spots on the bay where the actual street or bulkhead is only like 1 or 2 feet above sea level. So if you made that 9 foot, what his question was that it would look like the tower.
It's only 1.5 feet higher than what the requirement is now.
I understand that. I'm just giving you what his justification was, so everybody knows it. I'm not agreeing with him. I'm telling you what it is.
Well, that's why I feel we need to make a presentation at the meeting.
Can I throw one at Tom? You have this one at 10, this one at 10, and you have this one at 6. Where's the water going to go?
That's what I just have, pictures of it.
We can't help those low spots. You've got to keep it consistent, or you're just throwing money away.
And this, again, this is a 100-year plan. This is, as they're replaced, we will get consistent. But
Thurlow Avenue at the end of the street is a city piece of property, has no bulkhead at all.
Craig, I understand that. There's all kinds of things we can, you have to stay on point. We want the new rule to be 9 feet.
Right.
Straight across.
Straight across.
Fine.
Richard, are we making a motion that Despina Hess represents us at this meeting for the 19th?
Yes, that's what
I'll make that
that's what I
motion.
want.
We want to make it.
Wait, Stan is going to phrase the motion.
No, I mean, I just want to make sure that we're getting it right, because we're going to write, I want to write something to the commission so they have it before the meeting. And if we're going to make, we already recommended the plan be recommended to the commission, but is it my understanding that the plan's still going to have 9 feet there, or is it going to actually be different?
No, it's 9.
Okay, then we're going to refer that to the commission, and the Despina can just...
The Despina is there to explain our position on the 9 foot.
The way it's going to happen, I'm assuming there's going to be discussion at the commission that might say it'd be less, and our representative will be there.
Yes.
Okay.
The way it's going to happen, Despina, are you available on, it's probably going to be the 18th of February. I hope it is, but it may be put off till the first Thursday of March. It's one of those two.
What time of the day in the 18th?
Either 4, would it be at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock?
Do we know what day of the week? What day of the week is that?
Workshop at 4.
Probably 4 o'clock.
For what day is that of the week?
What?
What day?
Thursday.
Thursday?
And what will happen is Barnhart will be there. He will briefly, like 15 minutes, present the entire report, and he will discuss with the commission the thinking of the board. You know, that they originally recommended 13 feet on the beach, 10 and 9 on the bay, and then this board agreed to 9 consistently all the way across. After about 45-minute discussion, I listened to the tape recently, the board was unanimous and adamant that sustainability was more important than views to preserve the island.
Right.
And all the reasons you just heard, it'll be your job to just get up when he gets done and say, look, he's speaking for the board. No, I'm speaking as a board member for the board, and these are the reasons why. This is the feeling of the board. We know you're going to do what you want to do, but please respect the opinion of the planning board in your consideration.
And I'll write up what I...
Now, they may decide on the spot to introduce it, or they may decide to postpone it. It's up to, you never know what they're going to...
No, I'll make it work, because I support it, I'm comfortable talking about it, and I think each of us knows, or I don't know if each of us, I think most of us believe that this, protecting those bays is what's really going to protect the water in the street, so I think it's a great idea.
So Stan, would you phrase the motion?
Well, we already passed, we've already voted on the recommendation to the governing body.
So we don't need a motion to send her to the board?
We could do that. I would just reiterate, make another motion that we're going to recommend the post-Sandy Planning Assistant Grant Program prepared by John Barnhart, Bill Ponzio.
All we want to do is have a representative there.
And have Despina appear before the commission to talk about the 9-foot or any other interest that the planning board has. That would be the motion.
Okay.
So I made that motion.
Okay, second.
Scott Abbott,
Clem second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion passes. Second issue, I have a handout. We talked about it at our last workshop about writing a letter to the city. I sent it all to you. I made one minor modification. Well, actually, it's a major modification. On page 2, number 3 at the bottom, that issue was resolved yesterday. It went before the voters of North Wildwood. They rejected the, even in North Wildwood, they played with the wording. They called it scaled down. Was rejected by the public by 60 or 40%. They want to leave it at 4 lanes. So this is the letter that someone from the board to present to the city commission.
I can scan this in and send it via email if that's what you're looking for.
No, I want to discuss that at the commission meeting. I mean, I'm sure they can get it ahead of time. I don't know what the procedure is.
I
but I would
will
like discussion
scan
at
it.
the meeting in public.
We could, I would forward it to the commission. Vote on the planning board forwarding that correspondence to the city commission and make a vote on it, and I will do that.
And then be made aware of a meeting that will be discussed. Is that how it works?
Well, I can draft a letter to the commission, to the city clerk, that essentially states that along with the letter.
Okay.
Almost like we do a recommendation, it's the same thing.
Okay, now, I got a lot of feedback. I took under advisement, I made some minor changes. My comment to most of the feedback was we wanted to remain laser focused on this one issue and not bring up side issues like biking on Amherst Avenue or enforcing other laws and creating any distractions from the one issue of shrinking, dieting, what was the other word? Scaling down Atlantic Avenue from 4 lanes to 2. So, pardon me? Is that what it was? Well, it was a cold day.
Scaling,
What was the other word?
Diet.
So what do we do on this?
We take a vote to recommend, to make a recommendation to the commission, and I write correspondence, attach that letter, and state that somebody from our board will be appearing to discuss your letter.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is part of part of what we're talking about is we would like to see beach block parking on one side of the street.
It's not what we want, that was just an alternative if they insisted on bigger bike lanes. A way to make bigger bike lanes was to eliminate, that was just a suggestion, they could leave it like it is. I think the board would rather have them leave it like it is, but if they insisted on having bigger bike lanes, that was an alternative that they could do. It wasn't a recommendation that they do that.
Just out of curiosity, because I think I missed the meeting when people voted unanimously on the step.
It wasn't unanimous, Brenda didn't vote for
Right,
it.
okay.
It was 12 to 1.
So, if Chief Wolfson thinks that it's a good idea, why are we, you know what I'm saying? I'm just...
Because we're the planning board and we...
Right, but I mean, who's the most qualified to make that decision? Not?
I don't think it's a good decision. I think it's a personal issue of Commissioner Amadeo because a senior citizen's walking across the street and Chief Wolfson, who is trying to take care of a state law that really doesn't apply on 4-lane highways by cutting the traffic down.
Okay,
From
so...
my talking, everyone's talking to the board and everyone the board has talked to, no one of the main problem that I see is that everything is being done with code words. No one in the public knows that they're even considering this until it happens, and once it happens, there's no going back. What the board's main recommendation, or the most important one, is that in the public, they say, we are considering dropping Atlantic Avenue from 4 lanes to 2. They're looking for public input. They're looking for public input, but they put a barrier up when there's public input. This would create public input, which is what they say they're looking for. If they end up changing it and go with the chief's recommendation, we have no say in that. We can only make recommendations.
Right.
But we feel that the public should be more informed that they're not shrinking, they're not dieting, they're not scaling back, that they are taking a 4-lane road and making it into a 2-lane road.
So how are we going to get that out to the public?
It's going to be our recommendation at a public board meeting that they get it out to the public, but there's going to be press at that meeting anyway, so it will get out to the public.
So we'll be press at the meeting.
Rich, Mike, the main problem which Rich brought out is that they think that they've already put this out to the public, so they're not going to follow. It's in the...
They've already canceled one public meeting because they had bike-friendly...
So we want this to be aired in public, voiced in public. The business community doesn't know about it. I talked to Vern down in Florida Coal Cuts today. He said, well, he says, you'll put me out of business too. He said, he's already gridlocked on Vesta. He said, what are you going to do? Your wife would have a problem. And just everything's going to jam back because nobody's going.
Right, but you know,
The other, wait, one other thing though, the other consideration for safety on Atlantic Avenue hurts the safety on Winchester and Monmouth Avenue. Where the children, and this is from the, if you read the attachment, which is the committee's report about on the alternative routes that people are taking, there's a speeding problem. They're avoiding Ventnor Avenue for the lights and speeding on these areas. Now, if you're going to make people avoid Atlantic Avenue, they're going back to Winchester and Monmouth.
I think that from what I've seen, from what I've experienced, and I think that, which I just found out recently, is that I always thought that, you know, when you're at a crosswalk, not a traffic stop, which a lot of people don't realize either, which is stupid in my opinion, but when you're at a corner where there's not a traffic light and the pedestrian goes across the street, then the traffic's supposed to stop.
Yes.
Okay? So what happens is, and everybody knows what happens, is that one car stops, the other car is going behind them. They don't know why they stop. They think they're just being an ass, and they spin around and they almost kill the person who's in front of the car.
Yes.
Right. And I think there's been already been a few accidents.
Right. The other suggestion was lowering the speed limit to 25 to coordinate with Atlantic City and Longport because of that issue.
That's not going to stop the impatience.
But if that's the biggest concern,
Giving tickets,
Roger
well.
too will tell us, they have those signs in Ocean City on the north end when you enter that kind of almost, they jump out at you saying be careful of the pedestrians, they kind of make you stop.
Longport has those same signs.
Am I correct?
Right, but Longport has only two-lane highways, which they
No,
govern.
but if you were to have those during the summer season.
These are
I
all
think that's-
suggestions that they can do, but that's not our concern. Our concern is let there be public input to this.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no
And
problem with
protect,
that.
and protect the problem of the safety of our kids on
Rich.
and, yeah.
Not to cut you guys off, but just a suggestion to the letter, I think. I think it would be beneficial to, like you said, we're narrowing our viewpoint. Just a suggestion for number 2, on the first page, where we talk about the skewed data collection. I think that you're saying what's wrong, you should put what should be done. So I think you should say a proper or a more accurate reflection should include a study of, in the high, like the
We'll just
summer
jot it
season.
down in our changes.
I will, yeah, say what relief you want. We
Jot
want
it,
that
yeah.
study in the summer then. Because, like Mike said, who should we listen to? Well, I think that you don't need to necessarily be an expert. You can have your own opinion. You can rely on whatever expert you choose. But if we're going to rely on an expert, let's look at the right season. Because if this is when we're saying it matters, let's get the study then.
I understand, and from a personal viewpoint, since 2004 until last year, I was involved in innumerable studies from the DEP, from CAFRA, from this agency, from that agency, and it depends on who hires the study as to what the study says. And you're going to get the experts telling you birds will fly into this building in Wildwood, but they will not fly into the buildings in Atlantic City. So I hesitate to rely on the studies that the Department of Transportation is doing, or Chief Wolf's looking at, or whatever. Studies are skewed to who's paying the bill.
Well, I think, I totally agree that the public should be informed about what's going on, and to be honest with you, I would like to, I would love to see, it finagled so that, we keep, I don't really have a problem with 2 lanes going each way, but I would love to see, I like the idea of the suggestion of maybe eliminating the parking on one side of Atlantic and allowing beach block parking on one side of the street.
Right, if we say just eliminate parking on one side without a solution, but there's actually more parking on one side of the beach block than there is on Atlantic Avenue.
Right.
It's a suggestion. That's not it's not what we want, it's a
That's
suggestion.
what will come out in a public.
Like I'd be interested to see if there's been a local study by Chief Wolfson or the police department to see how many, accidents they.
Well, there is, it's noted in their report.
Okay.
That there's been several more rear-end accidents because of this. But I've talked to Jim Swift, I've talked to other lawyers, and they say this law really doesn't apply on a 4-lane highway. And I know in Oregon it doesn't, and I know in Colorado it doesn't. You can't have people walking across the Garden State Parkway and saying, well, I have the right of way.
Right.
It's supposed to apply to 1-lane roads where you don't have this problem.
Well, that's.
But that's something that the city has decided to say, well, or the state has said, it does apply. But
The state says.
I don't know.
Right.
When lawyers talk, I try not to listen, but.
Right.
So what's the bottom line?
Me either.
There's going to be modification to number 2, saying we suggest it be a year-round study. And then we will present this. I will probably have to stand up and speak at the meeting, but I'd like board members to be at the meeting too, if possible.
Question for Stan.
Yes, sir.
How many board members, I believe it's 4, can legally assemble at a commission meeting?
Well, we're not discussing policy.
No, but he's right. There's a
law.
As long as it's not it's the sunshine. I mean, it's the you can't. What's
Sunshine law.
Yeah, but it's sunshine law. You have to. A majority of the board can't meet in one place.
To do what?
So we can have them
Discuss business.
You can't talk any business.
Well, then you can sit there and 4 people can talk. I mean, it's only going to be one person talking.
It just takes 4.
I can
The board's 9, technically. It's a planning board. So 4 would be not a majority.
Not a
up to
majority, so 4 members can assemble in a official place without us violating any laws.
But I can always
And you won't do
notify, I can do notice.
You're going to do a notice that we're going to...
If you want to
In a
meet.
meeting?
Yes.
I don't think
It doesn't have to be
I wouldn't get in.
We don't-
My
we don't
suggestion
need
would just
9 people there.
Have
Just
4 people so you don't get into
I
the
would just
legality
stay
of
with
that.
4 too.
That's fine.
it's legal, it's clean.
Well, who's going? So we
Four
don't all
biggest
gonna
mouths.
show up.
And the restriction's not on the meeting, it's on the discussing it. So you can have presence, but not discuss it.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
We're not going to be discussing it.
Yeah, but
Tom's just being
You're
safe.
presenting
I
the
mean,
planning board's
safe.
viewpoint to commission, so you really are discussing a planning board action.
So
I
I
wouldn't
sit there
chance.
silent?
Yes, I wouldn't chance it. Is there, unless there's some need to have more than 4 people.
No, there's not, but
Okay.
I didn't think 4 people would want to go, but
Well, then I would
that's
play,
fine.
yeah, I would play it
So
safe.
the limit to 4 people, I don't think it needs to be named.
Could we all go, but only 4 people speak, or only 4 people can go, period?
I would suggest as 4 people go,
Here.
just not to take a chance.
Okay.
And I'll throw around later
So
who the
when-
4,
when
I'll
you-
talk to people who want to go and who...
I mean, you can go, I guess, there's an argument you can go if you want to speak about other things that's not planning board. As a citizen, you can go, but you can't go and all have 5 people speak about this correspondence.
I don't think there's going to be anybody speaking other than me, just if the board's there of support or whatever.
You're going to have 11 plan.
You're going to have a ratification from us supporting it, and you're the representatives presenting this to the commission and asking, the bottom line is, we should be asking them to take this complete study when it gets closer, have public participation, and remand it back to our board for review before it goes to the commission.
And the fact that
That's the bottom line.
and the other fact is, when we did reject it before, and then with this new committee, the Atlantic County Planning Board was invited to represent themselves, and the Margate Planning Board wasn't. So I would like to have someone from the planning board be on that committee.
Or just get it remanded back to us, get to see it.
And come back.
For fun.
Come back to us.
That's a cleaner way.
We're all in agreement with it. If we're not, you'll present it as 12 to 2 or whatever.
Right, that's what we'll do.
Right.
Right.
So we can make a motion. The motion would be just to direct me as solicitor to forward the letter as amended to the city commission.
And for the chairman to appoint
for
a
the chair-
four-member committee to present it to the...
That's fine.
At
Okay.
his discretion.
Yep.
I'll make that
Understood.
motion.
Did someone second?
Second it. I think more than anything, we just want the city to know what's happening.
The residents of the
The
city.
residents, yeah.
Exactly.
That's our biggest concern.
I don't want it to be a urination match between the board and the city commission. It's just a matter of, I feel when we made our position known before, we're now being shut out, and the citizenry's being shut out. And if people want this, that's fine. I have no problem with going with whatever people decide to do.
Just taking the board's ideas, present to the public.
Do we need is a voice vote okay?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So it is unanimous.
9-0.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
All in favor? Aye.
When are you planning to do it?
Mike seconded that motion. Mike.
When are you planning to approve it?
As soon as we can, I don't know when it would be available. I didn't want you to see the letter to all the board and see it first, and we didn't modify everything.
So it can't be next week.